Okay, Chapter 7, Product Selling Strategies that Add Value. So in this chapter, we have a couple of key points. We're going to describe positioning as a product selling strategy, explaining the 3D product solution selling model, discuss product positioning options, explain how to sell your product with a pricing strategy, and explain how to sell your product with a value-added strategy. And those are different based on customers' needs. And I mentioned in the last chapter this discussion of people are heavily focused on price. But in some ways, when they're buying and when you're selling, it's how do you help me lower my price but not compromise my quality. Unfortunately, the way I've seen it is that sometimes it compromises your quality, and they only find that out after time. But that means that when they're out looking for when they go back out to bid again, you're not going to win the bid necessarily, unless you figure out how to come up with a different solution than what you originally discussed. But product positioning is really important because, and really actually it should have its own classification, because positioning has taken such a more dominant role today than it has ever before. So you have essentials of product positioning, you should read that, and then also salesperson's role in product differentiation. So product positioning is you're positioning your product in a certain way, and how you do that, there's a very distinct strategy for doing that. And then salesperson's role in product differentiation it refers to your ability to separate yourself, your product, and your company from that of your competitors. And I'll give you an example that's not in the text, but Avon has it's called Skin So Soft, and it is a lotion, Skin So Soft. So obviously the name tells you why their lotion is different. But what people started to notice is that, and feedback started coming into the company, that it was actually a really good bug repellent. Anybody wearing it noticed that they didn't have a lot of mosquitoes around them. So Avon smartly repackaged it, so now they have something that's in the beauty aisle and in the seasonal aisle, where they've repackaged it as a bug repellent. So there's something about the smell of this that bugs don't like. So that would be an example in a way of product differentiation, where you look at your product and you find ways to differentiate it. And it may just be something as simple as, well, my product does this, where the other one can kind of do that, but you're going to have these side effects. Or we hear a lot of product recalls from that company and doing that solution. So all those ways are being able to differentiate yourself, or talking about something that your competitor doesn't have. So for example, a Cliff Bar. A Cliff Bar has a Cliff Bar for adults, and it has a Cliff Bar for kids. Power Bar, which is a competitor to Cliff Bar, does not have a Power Bar for kids. They now have come out with a line of doing that, of Power Bars for kids, but they didn't for the longest time. So that would be how Cliff Bar was able to differentiate itself, by creating a bar that was made exclusively for the younger kids, and packaged, for easy meals, where the mom on the go, here, give my kid a Cliff Bar, and at least I feel like they've got some protein and some of the different essential nutrients. So that would be how, if I were working for Cliff Bar, I would be saying, well, if you bought the Cliff Bar from us, Mr. Company, and put them in your vending machines, we could also put a junior Cliff Bar. That way, if a parent is going to be leaving for the day and they forgot to go and bring the snacks for their kids, that they can stop down at the vending machine, get a Cliff Bar, and then they can, when they pick up their kids, give their kids a Cliff Bar. That would be a perfect example of how I've differentiated my product from, let's say, Power Bar. But you're going to talk about the 3-dimensional product solution selling. And this is a very unique model in that you have to develop a selling solution with many different competitive lookalike products. Salespeople must be familiar with the unique satisfactions to meet the needs of the customer. So they give you an example of somebody who again, has this pricing problem. So make sure that you read that, because there are very key roles that people play in that sales process and coming up with a solution. So then there's product positioning, strategies to sell new versus mature, and low-priced versus value-added products. So again, what does that mean? You can choose to sell low-priced products. So for example, Walmart and Amazon had a sales strategy to always sell their prices low and make pennies on the dollar, but to sell in mass volume so that they made money. That is a strategy that they've taken, and it has worked for them for the most part. Amazon, for example, had an even more aggressive strategy that when Jeff Bezos' financial venture capitalist company backers backed him, he told them that they were not going to make a profit for at least 20 years. So his goal was to create the online platform to start driving people to it because they could get prices that were lower. Well, how did he differentiate himself at first? Well, it was, oh, come buy on Amazon and you don't have to pay for shipping. So that same product that you would buy at Walmart, because Walmart has a store in, let's say, Michigan, they have to use Michigan sales tax. Well, Amazon at the time didn't have any facilities in Michigan, so they didn't have to charge sales tax. Now that's changed, but that was the biggest issue, that why people would go to Amazon is to avoid their own sales tax in their states. Now the government's gotten involved and has tried to close that loophole, but it was a huge differentiator to why people were going to Amazon versus going to your local Walmart store. And Walmart had to come up with its own competitive strategies on how to be able to win against that. Like if you come and pick it up, then you don't get charged your shipping. And so we'll do store-to-store shipping was one of those where if I buy it from your store, I'll ship it to my store and then you can come pick it up. And that way we won't charge you shipping costs. So there were all of those different ways to be able to differentiate their products. We also talk about creating a value proposition. And a value proposition it's very important for your value proposition. And many proposals I put together, it starts out by saying, these are the values that my product or my service have that can meet the needs of what you said your pain points were, or what I know the industry's pain points are. So sometimes to think about it, it's not just what you're offering a client. You can have solutions that answer the problem for an industry. Then it becomes easier in some ways of selling your tool if you're an innovator and you're out doing something that somebody else is not doing, because you're saying, well, this solves this problem. We realize and recognize there's a problem in the industry, and we've created a tool that solves it. You're either first to market and no one has that, and you're going to end up dominating the market because people will want that, or you're going to be selling against competitors who then will quickly adjust their solution to cover the gaps in their value proposition. So you want to think about what a value proposition is. So make sure that you read that very, very carefully. And then selling products with a pricing strategy. Again, there are pricing strategies they varied. There are different tactics of transactional selling tactics that emphasize low price. I gave you one, which is Walmart. There's the consequences of using low price tactics. So for example, Walmart got hit during the 2008 market recession because they had always targeted the blue collar worker, and Target had always targeted the lower upper level market. So people that were wealthy, I mean, maybe $100,000 to $200,000 a year, but weren't like in the millions. And when the market recession hit, the blue collar workers took a hit, and they started to go to dollar stores because they couldn't afford Walmart. And you saw the rise of Dollar General, for example. And then you saw Walmart try to create dollar stores, in effect, and then close those stores later because the market conditions improved. So low price tactics, on the other hand, did not serve Walmart well, but they did Target, because Target did not, their customer that they had targeted wasn't suffering so much through 2008. Many of them had savings that they were living on, or were in management, or owned their own companies. So they were able to still have a little less and, had to make, obviously budget decisions, but we're still able to buy products at Target versus having to go to the dollar store. So there are, ramifications to doing low price tactics. The other one is not being able to service your customer. So I've, in my industry, I've seen a lot of times where they'll promise low pricing and then, they have to go hire staff to manage a customer's account. Well, those hiring staff cost money. Having to customize a tool costs money. And they find out afterwards that they make no money on that customer. And then they either have to go back and ask for a price increase, or they have to charge vendors a higher price so that they don't even want to participate in their program anymore. So you have to be very careful with your pricing strategy and don't just go in and lowball. And if you're going to say, like at Keely, we were always saying we're not lowest price, but you're going to get a really good product from us. And we have customers that have been with us since we started in 1960. And that's a testament to say if you've got a customer for 60 years and they've stuck with you, there's something you're doing right. So again, think about that when it comes to transactional solutions and pricing versus a more value-added pricing. And again, make sure at the end of the chapter that you are doing the learning activities and the application exercises. Again, what these are designed to do is to say that yes, you just learned something in theory, and it may make sense in theory, but you don't learn it and you don't embed it in your brain unless you put it into practice. So that's why on-the-job training sometimes comes easier, because you're learning on the job. Well, when you're in the academic setting, that's why we have all these exercises for you to do so that you can get practical application of doing something and to make it easier when you go out into the real world.